It's time now to review headlines in today's newspapers. And of course, we'll start right away with This Day on Saturday, where we have the lead story that says, after months of rancor, APC convenes to endorse Abdullahi Adamu as chairman. Few hours to voting, governor still struggling with unity list for other NWC positions. I think this day has, made the job easier. Let's hope that that's what will happen at the Eagles, Square later today. If there is going to be consensus, this day is basically saying that this is what has been agreed upon. And it's clear that the president's body language, having met with the governors and a few top key players in the party, he says this is the direction that I would like the party to go. But I think that the majority of the top-notchers in the party have settled for that, with that reality. It's just the other members of the NWC that they may not be comfortable with the so-called unity list, who should become the national youth leader, who should become the vice chairman, south, north, east, all those other area secretary of the party. So we will see from 3:30, just like Onyi said.
Yes,
we'll
yeah.
See what
and
happens.
I think, we discussed earlier, before we got on air, actually, this particular topic. If we already have a body language from the president saying, this is the, candidate, what happens to, well, we already know what will possibly happen to those who are contested for that position or are in that position. So, very interesting outcomes.
Is part of the game. Ordinarily, what they will have, the consensus is part of it, which we will even see later on, not for this convention, but when the party will select candidates for the party. Consensus might be an option in addition to direct or indirect primaries during the primary election, which is not what we are doing today. Today is just to appoint, or elect those who will run the affairs of the party. And consensus is also allowed. On top of the lead story, states failed to stop $418 million payment to debt consultants. All the 36 attorney generals of the states filed, as you're aware, a suit challenging the federal government's decision to deduct an amount that will be paid to consultants over the Paris club loan, the refunds. But it looks like for the round one, the federal government has won, and it means that the deduction will stay, and the governors will have to look for, how to show up their revenue, obviously. But of course, they have appealed, and that's the way to go. I see this case getting to the Supreme Court, and then a final pronouncement will be made on who's right and who's wrong, because we're dealing with a lot of money, 480 million. Who are these consultants? Who is paying for what? What consultation? What consultancy?
And that's quite an accumulation.
Did they carry out? Yes. And on top of that, Nigeria's first female vice chancellor, Grace Alili Williams, dies at 89. That's a sad news, a development. Yesterday, former vice chancellor of Uniben, the great Uniben, great mathematician, and I think she was also the first PhD holder woman in Nigeria. It's a sad loss. I recall I read something about what former governor of Delta, James Ibori, said about her. He was a student in Uniben when Professor Grace Alili was the vice chancellor, the VC there, and she did fight a battle with cultism when she was the VC. On top of the masthead, Supreme Court opposed the registration of 22 political parties by INEC. That's the story you find on page 5 of the paper. So it means that it's only the 18 political parties as they stand now that will be able to contest the field candidates for the elections coming up through the general elections later next year, early next year, and of course for the elections in Osun and Ekiti State later this year. On top of them, and then an important story on the window. This day, Wike can be taken seriously for whatever he says. A governor has a tendency to change positions randomly and unpredictably. I think this is a major story that this day will have to, stand by. That the governor of Rivers State, took this day to court for a publication in 2020, June 23rd of 2020, with the headline, "With a friend like Wike, Obaseki meets his PDP Waterloo almost." And the governor is saying that headline, that article maligns his character. But these days saying that you are not, what character are you defending? You know, you are known, you have the tendency to change your positions randomly and unpredictably. And who would have imagined that after that 2020 report, look at what is now happening between Governor Wike of Rivers State and Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State. All the brickbats, all the things that they are saying, does it not confirm what is they saying, that the character that you are claiming has been maligned, you know, we can now see.
Which has been studied.
Last but not the least, on the cover of this day, the story on page 10, it says, "Buhari in Lagos Tuesday for Tinubu's birthday colloquium." As you know, the national leader of APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will be 70 on the 29th of March, and the president is expected. This will be the 13th edition of that colloquium, an annual thing to celebrate the political wizardry of the strongman of Lagos politics, who, of course, is fast becoming the strongman of Nigerian politics. He has declared to be the president. We will see if he is the man that President Buhari will hand over the baton to.
A very packed week, Steve. What's a very auspicious occasion today, especially everything leading up to that. Now we take a look at the Saturday Vanguard. Where we have stories like Obi Wike change dynamics as Atiku hikes tension in PDP. We also have on the 2023 presidency,
Can we have the Vanguard?
Keeps
the Saturday Vanguard. Can we have that up, please?
We have Buhari
Vanguard.
Keeps lobbyists guessing. This is something that I think Onyi was alluding to earlier, just in terms of, you know, more the minutiae of it. Declare APC's convention illegal, PDP tells court. This is something we have to discuss because, of course, we are getting a number of, you know, feedback from left, right, and center on that. Yes, U.S. names 6 Nigerians bankrolling Boko Haram, sanctions them. Let's take a look at this APC convention.
Yeah.
That has been declared, quote unquote, illegal, according to the PDP. What do we make of this?
Well, I mean, you expect that the PDP will raise some dust. And what the prayer that the PDP is asking the court to grant is to say that the caretaker committee led by Mai Malabuni was not properly constituted, and that INEC should not be part of the convention of today as long as it is the Mai Malabuni led caretaker committee that is conducting it. I'm not sure that that's something that the courts will grant, but of course they're within their rights, to approach the court for interpretation whether Mai Malabuni-led caretaker committee has the right to conduct. But in any case, they're doing what they promised that they would do. They didn't do it after 6 months. They're doing it now, and they're trying to elect a proper NWC for the party.
So you're saying this possibly doesn't hold much water?
I would say that this is politics, but then let the courts decide.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to another.
Okay, we'll move on to Daily Trust. Daily Trust, where the lead story says issues as APC holds make or mark convention today. I mean, it's all about the APC. It's the APC day. By tomorrow, hopefully, we'll know who the next chairman, the new chairman of the party will be. But I like the fact that Daily Trust, has all these riders below the lead story. Signing consensus pact flops. Crisis persists in state chapters. Dead members on Rivers delegates list. Lawyers divided over Amechi Ono Malamin's participation. PDP 6 nullification of convention, which we just read. I mean, it will be interesting, but we know that this is not just about Mai Malabuni or the caretaker committee. This is about the party itself. This is about the preference and the choice of President Muhammadu Buhari. Below the lead story, is the $418 million debt court throws out governor's suit against federal government, which we have dealt with on the cover of this day. Encounter on page 10. I got mocked for returning over $3,000. That's a Bolt driver who saw $3,000 in his car left by a passenger, and he said, "This is not my money. I want to be a good, Nigerian." And he took the money, to the authorities so that they could look for.
Well, that is extremely laudable, in my opinion.
It is. There was a time in the 80s, a gentleman who was known as Muibi Shonubi, who saw a lot of money as at that time. I'm not sure if it would be up to $3,000, value now, but he saw a lot of money in a taxi in those days in the early 80s, I believe, or mid 80s, and he said, I will return this money. This is not, this is not my money. This is not how I want to make money. And the joke at that time among the Yoruba-speaking southwestern Nigeria is that, if you're a Muibi became like a foolish person. Why will you return such money? This is the same thing that has happened to this gentleman, the boat driver. But we should commend people like this.
Quite unfortunate, yes.
We should commend people like this. Yes, people will, criticize you. They will think that you are silly, you are stupid. But this is something that, and I hope that it will get, compensated.
Yeah, let's not forget it's actually the right thing to do.
It is
let's talk about that. It is the right thing to do. It's not your money.
It is the right thing to do. You're right.
You will return it.
You're right. Yeah. The cover of the paper says, "Fear, anguish in southern Kaduna over recurrent killings. With the rider, gunmen kill 50, abduct dozens in 9 Kaduna communities." And then on page 13, entertainers who take after their parents. And I'm sure we have loads and loads of such people. Daily Trust is extreme, highlighting some of them, who are from families of entertainment and they're taking after their parents.
Right, very interesting. I think regardless of any newspaper we look at today, it is about the APC.
It's about the APC.
Presidential
The lead will be about the APC, definitely.
jittery of a consensus option.
So we go to the Saturday Sun.
This is the Saturday Sun. Yeah. So every daily, of course, has got to carry the story. It has been, like I said earlier, many months
What angle is the Sun looking at? APC presidential aspirants?
Yes, jittery over consensus option. Of course, you mentioned earlier, but there is still a number of people that see it as an imposition rather than a consensus, given, of course, the written consent in accordance with the law as expected. So that's, of course, going to raise quite, some dust.
That's right. Any other interesting story in there?
Let's see.
In the Sun? Or should we go to Daily Independent? But I think that an important
zoning.
story the zoning story. Southeast insists
on 2023
presidency. And as a youth, others reject VP slots. There will be consequences if Igbo are denied presidency. PDP won't disappoint region. I think that this is a topic, an issue that won't go away soon. A lot of people think, maybe rightly so, that the Southeasterners, the Igbos, have been, if you like, cheated. They are not in reckoning. You may, of course, debate the sort of contribution that they are making in national politics. But people say that fair is fair. If you want power to rotate, don't just zone it to the south, but micro-zone it to the southeast. There's another argument, of course, that say, okay, if power will not necessarily go to southeast, how about going to a south, maybe a southerner of Igbo extraction, who could be, say, for example, somebody from the Delta, state, who is Igbo, who is Christian, in the hope that after 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari, who's a Muslim, power should ordinarily come to the south to a Christian. We'll see how it goes, but then the Igbo factor, as far as zoning is concerned, is germane, and I think that it will stay on till the very last minute when the decisions will be taken at the polls.